Hey, everybody, and welcome on out to another edition of the Living Deadwax podcast. I am your host, Ty, joined by my co host, Tyler. We got a fun one tonight. This was Tyler's choice this evening. Before we get into the topic, you joined us. You might as well hit the subscribe button, like the video, comment down below, all that good YouTube stuff. Excited to be back. We took a week off from recording last week for the holiday week here in the States, celebrating the 4th of July, blowing up a lot of stuff, enjoying our victory over the British.
Yeah, you're going even healer on the British by wearing that French hat. So
very true. They helped us. That's why I'm wearing the hat. then we saved their ass in World War II.
Yeah, if it wasn't for us.
It all worked out. And then we saved your ass in World War III. Remember that? Simpsons.
Yeah.
It's a fun episode.
Yeah.
How was the fireworks by you? Were they bad?
So we have the fireworks at the Peoria Sports Complex. There we go. I was trying to look the name there. We have it there, and they're always pretty solid. They go on for a while. I can't tell you because this is the first year I haven't gone out for them. So I can't really tell you how crazy it was, but if it was like all the prior 8 years or so, I imagine it was pretty healthy. Okay. How about by you? Does anybody do any actual like things, or just people on the streets?
No, I'm sure there's pros out there, but yeah, there's just people in the streets winging it.
Yeah.
It wasn't too bad this year, but it was funny because at like midnight there was just one guy out there just doing a firework like every 5 minutes.
Like a real one or like a bottle rocket?
No, like a pretty decent size, because you could hear the thump and it would go up and then like 5 minutes would go by and then he'd do it again. And it was just him. There's no other fireworks going off.
Were you guys ever firework folk? I don't feel like you were, no?
We did it sometimes. I remember like
at the dunes?
some 4th of July. Wait, don't go to the dunes in the summer. But
that's okay.
But cool. Sometimes we do fireworks at the dunes, like for New Year's. But when I was a kid in Maryland, I remember doing some fireworks like 4th of July sometimes. Nice. I remember Pizza Hut. I think it coincided with the car show at Pizza Hut some years.
Nice.
I remember a nice crossover there. So that was pretty fun as a kid.
That is pretty solid.
The Pizza Hut in I can't remember the name of the town, just outside of where we grew up. They do a car show every Friday night or Saturday night, and we would go fairly regularly. So you do the car show and get to sit down at the Pizza Hut. Classic luxury that we don't have anymore. It's quite sad, but so we didn't do it a ton. My Uncle Tim actually got into doing fireworks for a little bit because it's probably something he would do. And
professionally, or that was the phase of his life?
Professionally.
It's a hobby.
Like doing the gigs and learning how to light shit off and do the sequences and shit like that. So that was the phase of his life, the firework phase. So yeah.
Well, you said he started getting into fireworks, like he sort of like diving in.
Yes. You're right. You're 100% right. I understand why you took it that way. It was funny. Tyler, you chose tonight's topic. So what are we doing?
All right. So when I chose tonight's topic, I prefaced it with a little bit of because we've talked about a lot of decades. I know we're missing a couple, but we talked about a lot of decades here, and I think we talked about the 90s as well. But these are the records, the ultimate 90s records for me, that if I had a child, and which I don't. Court said not the father. So just kidding, it never happened.
Maury said not the father.
Yeah, not the father. And I moonwalked off stage like we do. Yeah, exactly. That's what happened. No, it never happened. Anyway, but if I had a child, I guess my nephew, counts, and he was to ask me, hey, if you, like, what would sum the 90s up for me? Like, what would you like call the 90s for you? Like, what got you where you are? I was like, all right, cool. I can do that for you. And that's what I did. So that was my idyllic thought processes.
Yeah, I took it very much the same way. So I did 5 with an honorable. And the way I did this, I chose bands that their main output and their best output was in the 90s.
Okay.
I didn't go to like a lot of legacy bands that had maybe good albums in the 90s. I kept that like specifically to bands that probably aren't going to get mentioned a lot on the channel. And like stuff that is very of the 90s, because there is a 90s sound. So stuff that is of the 90s and was main and big and popular in the 90s, and these bands were mainly big in the 90s. Some of them are still big today or still going, but
yeah.
So that's the way I took it, and it was fun. It was a good re-listen for some of these. The Honorable was the hardest one, honestly.
Ooh.
It was like, because I was like, what do I want to pick? What do I want to pick? So, but anyways, if you want to start with your Honorable, and then we'll work our way through our top fives, we'll get it going.
All right. So for me, it's kind of hard for me to have an honorable, like honestly, because these are such like elite records. But if I was going to do it, I don't know. I suppose. All right. F it. I'll get the biggest record out of the way. I'll call it an honorable. I'll do it. It's
Gotcha.
hard to call it honorable, but I'll do it. So
Okay.
for my honorable, kicking this off here, one of the biggest records of the entire decade of all time, little Metallica's Black Album. Is that your honorable?
Also my honorable.
There you go. Yeah. So dueling hype stickers here. Yeah. With this record, obviously for both of us, with this record, it opened up so many people to obviously the style of music. Again, clearly they were working their ways into a more popular side of things from where they started out as until where they ended up later in the 90s, especially. But I love Black Album. I still love Black Album. I still listen to Black Album quite often. It's not my favorite Metallica record, but it's the first exposure I ever had to the band on any level whatsoever. And your little brother, little sister, child, nephew, whomever, probably still the case. They're probably going to run into a song off Black Album before they run into anything else, more than likely, right? Yeah. So without this record, I wouldn't have really been into any Metallica, and it would have taken me even longer to get into anything that was more abrasive or heavy in this way. I ended up getting into heavy stuff regardless, but I can't not say that Metallica probably gave me something to kind of look for in those sounds, even for bands that don't sound like Metallica. It just gave me like the idea that maybe I could listen to that maybe, or I'd be into it. But sure. Yeah, so Metallica Black Album sold 30 million copies. And there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, I was debating between Black Album and one other album for the honorable. And yeah, I chose Black Album because I just started re-listening to it, and it's just such a good record, man. And I don't get tired of it. It's weird. I get tired of a lot.
So good.
It still sounds so good. Yeah. And just I often look at it and I understand we have the benefit of hindsight, because I understand a lot of people grew up with Metallica and then this dropped, and it's holy shit, they're the biggest band in the world now. What the hell? The football players are listening to Metallica.
Backlash.
So I get it. But like, so I understand the benefit of hindsight, where I can pick and choose the different eras and choose shit that I like and everything without having to be in the time period.
Yeah.
So I understand it, but like the Black Album, it's such a solid album. There's a reason it sold 30 million copies. I love listening to it because I like I like knowing what the next song is.
Yeah.
Like I like listening to it, like, all right, now Sad But True's coming. All right, now, nothing else matters. Like I like that.
It's one of those records like that are so ingrained in your head. Like it's not even it's just a movement of music at a certain point, because okay, then I know it moves into here, then and it's the changing of songs, but what, like your brain knows how many seconds between beats, like before it kicks into the next song. Like it's so ingrained and so tattooed in there. It's crazy. It's just a movement of music it's just a sound. It's not even like anything like coherent. It's just always there. It's just in the background of your head.
100%. So that it's like a warm blanket. It felt really good listening to it today. And so yeah, that was also my honorable. So killed two birds with one stone there. So what is your, I guess, number 5? I guess you're not really ranking these, but what's your?
Yeah, not really ranking them. So I'll just go through like years here, basically. So
Okay.
what I did, I'll just do chronologically. That works out. That
Yeah.
actually works out pretty well. Okay.
Okay.
So the oldest one here, this is, I talked about this in a pickups video, I think, recently. 1992, 9-Inch Nails. This is the first big 9-Inch Nails release from the 90s. I love all the records. I really do in different ways. But if I was to tell you that this is just, for the most part, nonstop balls to the wall, just aggression for, I mean, 6 songs, I think it's like 38 minutes possibly. It's just going and going and going the entire time. And I don't grow tired listening to this ever. Like, I will not skip any broken songs. They're not burned out for me. Like, every song on here, like the intro to Pinion, Wish, Last, Help Me I Am Hell, Transition, Happiness and Slavery, Gave Up. All of those are just all killer. No filler. Even the transitions, they're just perfect. So for my money, it's, again, not my favorite 9-Inch Nails release, but it's up there because it just, there's no relaxation here. And this, if this, again, my proverbial, child here, I would, let's say, listen to this. If you dig this, you'll dig a lot of other stuff because there's enough of Pretty Hate Machine on here to like harken them back to the original record, and then it'll also give them another reason to carry on, listen to Fragile, listen to other remix EPs too if they really wanted to do that, and then later obviously go into with Teeth and everything else. So and the live stuff. So anyway, Broken, 9-Inch Nails. I would give this record to my son and be like, hey, man, you got to check it out because it's real good. And I think it would help you out and it'll make you feel good. And he'll say, yeah, Dad, it will. And I'll be like, yeah, it does. Thank you. And he'll come back to me about a week later and say, hey, man, that was the greatest advice you've ever given me in my entire life. And I'm probably going to be president one day. I'm like, you probably are, man. You're cure cancer too. And he's like, yeah, probably. And then he dies.
Man, cool story, bro.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you that. So that's what you'd recommend somebody to start. If you're going to start 9-Inch Nails, you'd say start there.
100%. Even with my affinity for all the records, there are still things I would drop out. But 6 tracks with like 4 real songs, like you can't. It's perfect. It's perfect. Okay. It's a great intro.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. And that was, what year is that?
That's 92.
92. Okay. So you got the oldest thing in there because the oldest stuff I got is 94.
Okay.
So outside of Blackout, it's 91.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to go chronological. I'm going to kind of go in order of importance, I guess. I'm going to start with this one. This is 96. This is a, it's Diamond or it's 12 times, I think, at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's 12 times platinum as of, what was it? I want to say it's shit. I can't remember. Anyway, it's 12 times platinum as of, I want to say it's like 2001. So it's weird now. It's like you got to recertify this. But anyway, Matchbox 20, Yourself, or Someone like You. So yeah, this is their debut, 96. Obviously just a massive album. We got so many singles on this record: Long Day, Push, 3 a.m., Real World, and Back to Good. So you got 5 singles on this album. There's only 12 tracks, so nearly half of the album was a single. Yeah, I mean, for my money, like, they're a quintessential 90s band. So like when I said this, I was like, what would I put in a time capsule to kind of represent 90s music? And like when I think of 90s, I think of the Matchbox 20 sound.
Yeah. The late 90s contemporary.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, they did it right because you get Rob Thomas, you get the women, you get the moms. Like, you just print money forever.
Yeah.
So Cool thing about them too is they only have 5 albums. Like they haven't really like milked stuff, and it's all the same dudes minus one Adam Gaynor left, but other
Yeah.
than that, it's the same guys. So it's really cool. Like Rob probably could have just left them and done a solo thing, and he's
I think he
dabbled.
did go solo for, yeah, he did do a dabble. And then we also found out somewhat recently that he's accredited with writing the Smooth. So he
Yeah.
has Smooth money,
Oh
Santana
yeah.
money, which Supernatural is, I think it's like almost 20 times platinum at this point, just all the oodles and boodles and monies. So he's got that money to keep to do whatever he wants to either, as well. So whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's it's just a great album, man. To me, it's a great album. The cool thing about this album too, like I was reading about it, it sold 610 copies in the first week.
Wow.
So like it was not selling, and obviously it's gone on to great heights, and yeah, looking at it is 12 times, and that's as of uh I think it's 2001. I was just
It
looked at
came out
this.
on a major on Sony, no?
Yeah, it's 12 times as of 2001. So 20 years ago. So what is it? 15? Like I don't know. Like
Yeah.
there's still a lot of good CD Prime buying time there.
Yeah.
So yeah, this thing would be interesting to get it recertified. It was on Atlantic. So
Yeah. So that's big
so
money. They sell 600
mm,
copies in the first week. You're shitting bricks. And
yeah.
then I don't know. There has to be like the video hit. Like, did they play them on VH1? Like something happened.
It
They were
well, it came
featured.
out. It came out it came out in October '96.
Yeah.
So Long Day was the first single. So that's September '96. So right before that. But 3 a.m. came out in November
Okay. 3M is
'97.
much bigger song.
That's probably one of the biggest songs on there. So that's when it probably really started selling there. So just a great record. If you've never listened to Master, like this is the record to listen to. Mad Season, their second record is pretty good too. We're gonna that one. This on Red. This is the 20th anniversary. So this came out a number of years ago, but it's still in print. So get it. Like we're almost the 30th anniversary at this point.
Wow. That's
3
true.
more years. So, but you can still pick this one up. Sounds good. So yeah, was super stoked to kind of rediscover this record. And yeah, I'm not a huge stan. Like I like the hits and I like this record. So that's kind of where I focused my energy this episode. So you kind of see where we're going. Outside of like one or two choices. But anyways, Matchbox 20, their debut. I'd put this in a time capsule.
F&A. I gotcha. All right. So next up here, where we at? So if I'm doing this chronologically, I'm going here. All right. So we've talked with this band for a million times. It is what it is. It's just the reality of the situation. I am sorry. Okay. To all of our listeners here, but I have to do it. So the band of the 90s. Okay, I'm sorry. The band of the 90s, even though they only existed for 4 years of the 90s officially, they're the band of the 90s. I am sorry. Okay. That's just what it is. That is going to be Nirvana, and the record is In Utero. So I've talked about Utero before. It's my favorite Nirvana record. There's enough weirdness on here, and it kind of goes to the same Nine Inch Nails argument. There's enough weirdness on here, but there's still enough pop on here that you're still wanting to go invest more into what Nevermind was. And then maybe if you like the weird stuff or the more raw sound, you go back to Bleach as well. So it gives you a kind of taste, think of everything there. And I've always said that the next Nirvana record might have been my favorite record of all time, because I think they might have settled in, made a really loud, intense, raw, emotional record, but still had because I love this record regardless. There's still some hits on this record. Obviously, it was still a massive record, but it's hard to compare it to Nevermind. But I think that the next record, I think they would have dialed everything in a little more, found the way, hopefully, if Kurt would have lived just beyond his drug addiction and stuff, right? So if that would have continued on, I think that it would have been a really interesting next turn for the band. So, In Utero will be the one I offer up. And then the record that it's a tag on, but whatever, that I listen to and watch more than anything else these days, the Live and Loud concert.
Wow.
It's so sick. Every time I go to the gym, that's not true. That's not true. Not every time. Many times I've gone to the gym and have just put on my phone, put on Live and Loud, and watched the entire thing over and over again, or whatever, I guess an hour. So I watch it, and it's just so goddamn good. It's with Pat Smear when Pat just got in the band. I think Pat was in the band for like a year, maybe at this point, 9 months. And it was the MTV concert. It's so nicely filmed. It looks perfect. They did a Blu-ray release on this a few years ago, and then this is the web store exclusive on Red and Blue, I think it is. I was so excited they were kind of finally going to do this and do a set for it, and they're working way through the catalog at this point still. And the live releases they've done before, I have those, except for the Wishka Banks or whatever. I don't have that, even though I should have bought it the one day. Regardless, don't matter. So still relevant to me. I still think that it gives everyone kind of what they want here. The pop, the raw, the punk, the loud stuff. It does everything. So here you go. So Nirvana, In Utero, Live and Loud. I'm giving my kid these CDs and saying, go check them out and then tell me what you think.
Gotcha.
So, there you go.
That's a good choice. I mean, you could do Nevermind in there too, obviously. Just for the cultural impact. But In Utero hasn't been recertified since 96. It was 5 times platinum in 96.
Shocked.
It's crazy how they just the recertifications, they don't come. I guess the bands or the labels, they have to ask for it.
Yeah.
So that's why. But
they're not the band to do it, right? So like I think the label would do it at some point just to say like, I don't even, you would think like, just like the Metallicas and stuff or whatever, like they all say like 20 million sold, or not, not all of them, but like at least the Black Album does, but they all advertise that stuff like Diamond Records, like that's all over the LEPs. So it's like, why wouldn't you want to do that? Because it could possibly be 10 million copies, because there's a solid 8 to 10 years of really heavy CD usage and purchasing there. The CD money existed for decade afterwards.
According to, this is on the RIAA website. It's 5 times platinum, multi-platinum, October 25th, 96.
That's nuts.
So we're 17 years of sales. So left over. So who knows what it is now. So definitely a good choice. I'm gonna go with another massive album. Coincidentally, also hasn't been recertified since 97, but it was 6 times platinum as of 97. Another debut album from a band, 94. Can you guess it?
Are they a pop rock band from California?
No.
I don't know. Show me.
Not from California.
Oh, okay. No, right. Keep on. Yeah.
From jolly old England, Bush.
Oh, wow.
16 Stone.
Okay.
I think this is a massive record for the 90s. I kind of get it. It's Nirvana light. I kind of understand the argument there. It's polished Nirvana, but I think this is a really good fucking record. I think the production's on it's still so solid. It still holds up. Massive singles on here. Everything Zen. Little Things might be my favorite song. Come Down, Glycerine, Machine Head. Machine Head's a fucking killer song. I love Machine Head. All these songs still get played on the radio too.
Every day.
All day. Every day, man. They still hold up. And this is a great record. And like, I have a lot of nostalgia for this record. I've heard this record a ton of times. So like, this is one of the first records I thought of when we were doing this.
Mm-hmm. So
I had to include it in there. Just a massive album, man. I think it still holds up. And I think, the follow-ups or whatever, like Razor Blade Suitcase is fine. I haven't probably listened to anything else after that.
Yeah.
But, I think they get kind of a bad rap because of that, because it's so label and like polish driven. And I don't think it's derivative at all though. Like,
they brought something more to the table, you think?
I think they did. Because I think Gavin's voice is different enough. Like he's a
Yeah.
much better singer than Kurt.
Yeah.
And I think it's just polished enough to where it's not like a total ripoff. And I don't think derivative albums are probably this is probably a diamond record by now. The
Oh, for
last time it was
sure.
certified was 97. I don't really think there's many derivatives that are diamond albums. So
Monkeys.
I guess okay, okay, maybe. All right, whatever. I don't. The Bush isn't the fucking monkeys, Tyler. Come on.
Give him some fucking
give me,
credit. God damn it.
give me a break here. But
Yeah.
but
No,
yeah,
I'm a big fan of those songs too. I was gonna say, I think a lot of those songs, the singles especially, obviously, they just exist. They're just in the atmosphere. They're in the air. Like you will run into those songs, the grocery store, whether it be a Target, a Walmart, a toy store, like an electronics store, a restaurant, you will run into those songs.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, even the other songs, even the non-singles, it's a really good album, top to bottom. I recommend. At least it's only 52 minutes, 12 tracks, so it doesn't really overstay its welcome. It's a good listen. It still holds up. Bush, 16 Stone. So I feel like we got a good mix going on here. I think you're doing more of the obvious, some of the obvious choices.
Yeah.
I'm going some of the more like just like basically 90s albums that lived in the 90s.
For
That's
sure.
the way I interpret
it. I'm with you. No, yeah, it's funny. Kevin Devine, somebody that I've talked about a few times, and just did a pickup video mentioned about him. I think he was 14 when that came out. It came out in 96, right?
Yes.
All right, so he's like
or 94, excuse me. 94.
Okay. All right, so he was 13 at that point, I believe it is. 13, 14, probably 94, 95. And he was talking about when he was 13, 14 years old, that he would go on and on about that record to friends. And he would say, this is going to be just as big as Nirvana. This is going to be as culturally relevant as Nirvana. He was a massive Nirvana fan. And he's like, this is going to be it. This is the new record for the 90s. And he's like, and I didn't know what else was going to come, but I was so confident in what I said in that moment. He's like, I was convinced this was the next Nirvana. And then, like, it just obviously didn't really work out that way exactly.
I mean, he was right for a little bit.
For a moment. Yeah, for a moment. I think they were definitely the talk of the town. Plus, they're all much better looking than the Nirvana guys. So they could have sold them on that level as well. So it was very different.
You definitely had the diminishing returns. Like I think Razorblade Suitcase is a multi-platinum record, but not even nearly as close. And then obviously after, funny part about that is originally supposed to be through Hollywood Records, and Hollywood Records said there's no singles on this album, so it ended up going through Trauma. So, Trauma and Interscope.
Interesting.
Because Hollywood Records didn't want to put it out. And it's funny just because there's 5 massive singles on an album with 12 tracks, and they said there's no singles here.
And again, things that you don't understand because we've always had it. So we have the benefit of that hindsight. We're like, how do you not think this is a single? How do you hear this song and don't understand this can get played every day, all day on the alternate radio for the next 30 years? How do you not know that? Like, it's crazy to think, to have that perspective, but they didn't know anything. So there you go. As has been shown many times.
Very true.
There you go. All right. Next one. So I got 2 more left, and then the honorable. So
we already did the honorable.
Next one, I got. This is one of my favorite records. This is definitely more of an adult pick, or I'm not adult because I listened to this in high school, but like it wasn't really until shortly thereafter that I really got deep into it, and that would be Weezerton by Pinkerton by Weezer. There we go. Weezerton, by the way. Weezerton.
I thought you were doing an inside joke or something. I was like, is that what people call it? Weezerton?
No, I'm just drunk. So I'm not. I found this record, like I said, in high school because I remember a lot of my favorite bands, they would talk about this record because this is definitely the sound that a lot of my favorite bands were trying to get in the mid 2000s, like Brand New and Manchester and basically any alternative emo band. They were just jerking off over this record. So they were trying to make these sounds, trying to make it more interesting and weird and quirky in some way, shape, or form. And, maybe not to this extent, but the sound especially was what they were going for. So when I found that out, I was like, all right, I need to check this record out. So I downloaded it and then dove in. I knew Blue Album, obviously, because that's I could have picked it very easily, honestly, because that's a massive, massive record. And it's just insane how big that was, all those singles. And then they turn around and they make Pinkerton, which largely had no singles, was not commercially viable, was panned at the time. No one thought they did well. They wrote them off instantaneously. And then Rivers Cuomo had like articles written about them, about how could our new savior, fall so far and so hard and so flat. Like, what is happening here? And so they toured in it for a very short amount of time. They pretty much broke up, and Rivers went to college, and the band went away for a little bit because it got really strange out there because they were so massive and big, and then this record just didn't hit. It wasn't the polished Rick Ocasek produced record that everybody had hoped for. They would have a Blue Part 2. Little did they know at the time that the colors would come back and they would make more color records, and that would be a gimmick for them for many a decade ahead.
Yeah.
So anyway, Pinkerton, El Scorcho, Pink Triangle, Get You, like it's every song. It's The Good Life, Butterfly, Why Bother, No Other One, Tired of Sex, like just every fucking song. This set actually is what you bought me one time. Bought me for my birthday like 10 years ago.
That's a long time ago, yeah.
Long time. It's the Super Deluxe. At the time, Super Deluxe version, 3LP, 2010. So yeah, this is a little while ago, and this hung out for a little bit, and I think we ended up getting it at that point. I think it was only down to like $60. So like I think we both, it worked out pretty well for us. That you paid the money for it, and then you got me the gift for it for birthday. That's insane. So I appreciate that. We both, neither one of us had a lot of money at the time. So there we go. So love it. If you're a Weezer fan, you know this record, and if you've not listened to Weezer before, maybe you start here. I don't actually know. I would tell my kid, because my kid would probably know Blue Album just by walking around the streets and hearing the radio. So if they want some introspection and some interesting thoughts, come to Pinkerton and get really weird and wild lyrics and storytelling, and a lot of confessional stuff going on, a lot of just weird emotions. So yeah, there we go. Also, I did tell you about this and I texted you about it, but whatever. Just on the Weezer kick, because I've been on a Weezer kick for this last week or so. But the demos, I started listening to, that's how I got deep into the demos. I got into the first demo as well as the demo leading up to Blue. Ty, they had those songs 90% there for 2.5 years before they made Blue Album.
Okay.
It's insane to hear that. Like there's inflections, obviously production's much better, but there's like little inflections with lyrics, but those songs are largely unchanged from the first demo till the first record. And I am just so blown away by that, because you would think that they had 2+ years to sit on these. How is it that, you didn't scrap them and start over, which is totally what bands do. They have demos they don't even touch, or largely don't touch on their first record, but they did. And the whole demo, except for like one song, made the record. And it's crazy that they were so good. So if anybody gets super deep into Weezer and they want to check that out, check out the demos, because it'll satisfy you and show you the origins.
You mentioned a ranking, and I was thinking about it, and I'm like, it'd be really rough. It'd be really weird, because I have an obvious number one. You have an obvious number one. So everything is just kind of in between. I've never done everything else all the way through. I've never done another Weezer album outside of Blue Album all the way through. Wow, so it would be a massive undertaking. Mm-hmm. I have such nostalgia for Blue Album because of my brothers. That record is like the Black Album, ingrained in my DNA. I thought about putting it in, but I knew I thought you were gonna do Blue Album, or Pinkerton, so I didn't bother. But it'd be a fun one, because like I said, I've never listened to anything all the way through outside of Blue Album, and I haven't listened to listen to stuff, because that record is like,
for sure,
part of my life.
I've been out largely on Weezer since maybe, like, I think Red was the last time that I remember listening to one of those records, because those singles were everywhere, Troublemaker and Pork and Beans and stuff. So listen to Red. And then since Red, I have not really been there for it. I think Red is 2008 or 9. And so that was my last record that I was there, and then everything since then I've checked in here and there, and listened to some of the songs people suggest. If you're a disenfranchised Weezer fan, if you will, and you want to check out some good stuff, they give you the couple of songs to listen to. So I've done that, but yeah, I have not dove in for the last 15 years.
Yeah, it's great. There's a lot there. There's a lot. They're a very
like 9
prolific band
records
now. So
yeah.
Alrighty, good choice. Good choice. I'm gonna go with one of the most important records probably to me ever. I don't know. It's really up there for me. This is a record that I based almost since it came out. Like this record and the big song on this album's been in my life. It's one of my favorite pop rock albums by one of my favorite pop rock bands ever. 1998, Dizzy Up the Girl by the Goo Goo Dolls.
I thought you were doing ZZ Top with Sleeping Bag.
The single? It's not an album.
or the what is it? Is that the Recycler record?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's.
Yeah, I thought you were doing Recycler. So okay,
no, definitely not that. But yeah, Goo Goo Dolls, Dizzy Up the Girl, their biggest record by far. Obviously, have Iris on here, Dizzy, Slide, Broadway, Black Balloon. Those are the big singles. So another 5 single album. This one is 5 times platinum, and has been updated. This is 5 times platinum as of 2022, which I find really crazy. It's that low. I mean, that's a lot of fucking. That's a lot of albums, but
not everything's diamond, but like that has to be damn close in my mind, right?
It's not, I guess, as of 2022. Yeah. So this is a fairly recent certification. I like this record top to bottom. You get it. You still have a lot of Robbie songs on here. Robbie does more of the punk side of the Goo Goo Dolls. So like there is a weird vibe to it, but I like that because it bounces back and forth between him and John. And to me, this is one of the best pop rock albums ever. And to be honest with you, like last week too, I go through a lot of like hobbies where I just don't want to listen to music. I just I got to take like a week or 2 off. And last week we had the holiday. So I used that and I was like, I just don't want to record. I don't want to listen to music this week. And then when I had to do research for this, like I just put on this back on. It's just nostalgia, man.
Yeah.
Just like, this is a record I can listen to when I don't want to listen to something. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing. I'm not saying that as like, oh, you just put it on the background and ignore it. I'm saying like, this helps me get back into music. Like that's how much I love this record. And it's such a stupid, silly little pop rock record with ballads on it. But I think they're some of the best ballads ever written. I love this band. They're great live. And yeah, I love this album still. And yeah, that's it. Goo Goo Dolls, Dizzy Up the Girl. This is signed pink variant that Tyler got for me one year. This and a boy named Goo, which I thought about on here, but this is the record for me. So this definitely would go in the time capsule for my daughter. That's definitely one that I would recommend.
Yeah, exactly. See, Luna's got some records coming to her. There you go. All right. So next one, I did not know the next 2 because they're the same years. I did not know which came out first. And I just looked it up, and this one beat the second one by 5 months, right? 4 months? 4 months.
Wow.
So talked to this band quite a few times. I'm about to go see this band in a couple weeks in Denver, Colorado at Red Rocks. The record is Clarity. The band is Jimmy Eat World. I love Jimmy World. This is not my first record. This is not my favorite record by any means. But I think that I would want to guide my child to the emo sound. And I think that this is it's a legendary record in that pop punk emo community, obviously. And I think that this would be a massive record to check out Jimmy World on for the first time. There's the records in the 2000s that are much bigger than this one. Like your sister knows those songs. She doesn't necessarily know anything off Clarity, but for a cult following, it's one of the best records or favorite records of all time in that scene. I would recommend, if I was to do this for my child, the whole thing. But Table for Glasses opens the record. Super cool song. Manchester Orchestra actually just did a cover of that song, and Jimmy World did a cover of Telepath for the record for a 7-inch they're putting out in the VIP package. So that's a super sick thing. Lucky Denver Mint was a single. They had a music video for it. It was also in the movie Never Been Kissed, which is crazy and weird.
Oh,
so
wow, did not know that.
Yeah. The video is it's the movie cut video. So
gotcha.
it's very odd. I Believe in What You Want, Sunday, Crush, 10, Fireworks, Blister. Blister is always the fun thing because that's when Tom takes back over vocals and does the song and just belts out the chorus way too, or the crowd just bouts the chorus way too loud, and it's super sick. I can't wait to do that again. It'll be awesome here in a couple weeks. So anyway, Jimmy World, Clarity, perfect record. Not my favorite Jimmy World record, but I feel like it's a good introduction to that sound, and I feel like it'll make you curious enough to want to hear more of this. Give Death Cab a chance later on. Give Manchester a chance later on, and just puts you in a certain mood. And I think my kid's gonna enjoy that. So there we go, bro. Appreciate that. Go listen to Jimmy World. Make me proud. It's my kid.
Nice.
I'm talking to my son. There we go.
See, the way I tried to do this too, it's like I could have easily just put Alice Chains on here and Soundgarden, but I just felt like we've talked about those bands so much where I'm like, I gotta branch out and do something else. But I appreciate it. You're going to like the more like big important ones to you. These are obviously big. Some of these are major important to me, but I just hadn't talked about them as much. So
yeah, I'm with you.
I feel like go ahead.
Same but different. I feel like.
Yeah, and I feel like we got a good mix going on there. I mean, this is a good time capsule. So this next one came out in '99, one of the biggest albums of the decade. It's 15 times platinum worldwide, 7 times in the US as of 2021, which I think is low. Massive singles, another 5 singles album. Warner Brothers Records. Can you guess?
What year?
99.
99, 15 times platinum.
Worldwide, yeah.
Worldwide, 5 singles.
Yeah. Warner Brothers.
Hold on. Warner Brothers. Who's on Warner Brothers? 15 times single. There's times
They're
platinum.
Still on Warner Brothers. Almost. Yeah, they are.
All right.
Produced by
Chili Peppers, Californication.
Rubin. Yeah, Californication. I was thinking about it today. I think the Chili Peppers will go down when all is said is done. I think they will be in that realm of Beatles, Zeppelin, like Metallica, The Who, Pink Floyd, one of the biggest bands of all time. Now, let me explain. You have cultural relevance for almost 4 decades now. Massive Records, culturally defining records, multi-generational fans. You're a band that you sound like nobody else. So you have the artistic integrity and the commercial success to go with it. There's very few bands in that realm. You're still doing it today. You're playing stadiums today. There's very few bands in like when you start narrowing down, like you're in like the U2, like Beatles, Zeppelin. You're in that air. And I think when all is said and done, I think people will look back and I think Chili Peppers get memed on because, yeah, I get it. California shit. I understand Anthony. Sometimes it's hard to get into Anthony's vocals. Sometimes even Rubin's production on some of the classic stuff is a little hard to get into sometimes. But I think the body of work will end up speaking for itself. Mm-hmm. And they're one of those bands that are hit or miss for me a lot recently. But as far as like the run they had throughout the 90s into the early 2000s, like, by the way, is my favorite record. It might be in my top 10 favorite records ever when we do that. but that's O2, so I couldn't pick it. So I had to pick the next best option was Californication.
Yeah.
But just a massive album, Scar Tissue, Around the World, Other Side, Californication. Those are the big four singles, and Road Trippin' was the last single, which is the last song on here, which is a great track. A lot of cool deep cuts on here. Just a stellar album front to back. Great playing. John Frusciante's awesome. You know, some of the solos, like the Scar Tissue solo, like it's iconic, man.
Yeah.
Flea's playing. It opens up with Flea, and the bass, his bass sounds like a guitar. It's like Cliff Burton esque.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the more I think about it, and like Chili Peppers didn't make my top 10 favorite bands because they are so up and down for me, and I love some shit so much, and other shit just doesn't hit with me. But as far as like top 10 bands that I respect, they would definitely be on there, 100%.
Yeah.
You know, I was reading about the promotion of this album in '99. They were streaming a song every day on their website in 1999.
Wow. Nice.
They did proms. They were playing proms to promote this record because they wanted to target a younger audience for this. They were so fucking ahead of their time in a lot of shit, and they saw the curve before any other bands. Like, that's really impressive to me. Flea would do his Flea mail thing, so he would send out like a blog
Yeah.
about doing album updates on their website. Like in '99, dude, there wasn't many bands doing that in '99. A lot of bands were raging against it and doing any of that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Like to me, they're one of the most important bands ever, really, and the most culturally relevant bands ever. And they're definitely one of the best bands of the '90s. I had to pick either this or Blood Sugar. I like this a little bit more than Blood Sugar. So yeah. Californication, Red Hot Chili Peppers, definitely in my time capsule.
I'm with it. So I did actually recently have a conversation with our buddy Zach, and he messaged me and on Instagram for some reason, but
Nice.
and then I started texting him because I don't know why you're messaging me on Instagram, and
Sure.
yeah, and he said that he sent me the Instagram message was just getting really into Chili Peppers lately. And that was
Nice.
which is weird for him to say. I forgot to tell you this. And it's just weird for him to say because it's not really his. In my mind, it's not his genre of music. Just considering what he listens to otherwise. Big tool head.
I mean,
And
what are the Chili Peppers genre though? Like, what do you listen to? Are you listening to you're listening to their funk rock, like the funk metal stuff? Are you listening to this stuff where they get really poppy and more
the pop. It's
introspective?
all the pop. Yeah.
You know, their early albums, their newer albums that have like psych stuff. So, like to go back to my point there, like I guess I know what you're saying. Like they're not his
You can
band,
dabble in.
you could dabble into different things and hear it's totally different things, like on
That's
one
true.
record.
For sure. The eclectic side is definitely an appeal, obviously, for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
And so we went back and forth on Californication a little bit, and I just said it like I told him it was like my perspective on it. So that's the return record for John. That's John's return record. That's the first John return record, right? So
Yes.
That's Around the World opens the record, which is a really wild song. And it's the first thing that anybody had ever heard. Well, obviously, you just told me about the website, right?
They were streaming it, yeah, days before.
Well, even then, that actually illustrates my point perfectly. So they literally started, I assume, with number one. So the first song you heard from the new and improved and whatever John Frusciante was Around the World, which is nutso and ballsy because they don't showcase him into what like he was going to be later on the record and what he can do. It's a nutty, crazy song for people to listen to for the first time for the return of the Chili Peppers because there's so much more that's left in the bone there from that song on. Or on that song. So it's really interesting. It's ballsy. And, that was a thing we went back and forth about a little bit. And I was just like, that's just crazy. Cause I know how much John means to that fan base and the sound of Frusciante's guitar work and tone and everything else, like just the shit that he was doing, because some stuff is just so subtle. And again, as a non-guitar player, maybe obviously I don't know anything, but like, some of his stuff is just so subtle that you don't know how crucial it is to certain songs and the sounds that he does. And just it's one of those things where like what's his name was really good.
Josh.
Josh Hoff. Klinghoffer. Josh was really good because he was a guitar tech for years, right? That was the deal, and they just gave him the job because he's been in the group and been in the band basically for all that over those years. And Josh was really good for all the years he was in the band, but there still was like an intangible intangible that John had over anybody else. And so you do hear a difference in the guitar work when he's playing the exact same songs over, again in live or whatever. There's still just little things. And I think that Frusciante showcases that a lot on all those classic Chili Pepper records, and probably all of them, I guess, but just the ones that I personally know a lot about.
Yeah, definitely. They were. I mean, to me too. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but to me, they were the fact that it's mostly all the same dudes, outside of obviously deaths and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like, the core has been there for so long, and they're so good.
Yeah.
Like you're to me, and I'm such a Rush fanboy, but you're approaching Rush status. Like you're some of the most talented, the three guys in the band, the music aspect of are some of the three of the most talented dudes ever to do it.
Yeah.
Chad, Flea, and John. And then Anthony has his own style, his own flavor on top of that. One of the most eclectic, one of the best frontmen ever. So like that's why they're getting into rarefied air. Like I seriously think when it's all looked back upon, like they are in that conversation as one of the most important bands ever to do it.
I mean, you can make the argument, and I think it's a sound one to make. So I don't disagree with it. It's crazy to think about that just right now. It's crazy to think that they are going to be in that conversation or that realm as like a Zeppelin or a Stones or a Beatles or Floyd or whatever, right? But I understand what you're saying. I get it because eventually our bands are going to catch up possibly to those kind of heights. Arguably, subjectively, I guess. So, yeah, it's nuts. So, all right. So, same year. So that was 99. You said.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So we're doing back to back 99ers.
Okay.
So this is the most important record for me of the 90s. It's the only record for me personally because it's the only record I actually experienced. It's the only record I actually knew and listened to in the moment. So It's the only one I can think about. As limited as my scope was of what the world was, right? It was so big in my bubble, in my world, and everyone's bubble that it was a phenomenon. And that is Enema of the State by Blink-182. Blink-182 has remained and still differently, but still to this day one of my favorite bands, if not my favorite band of all time. They were my first real favorite band. There was a life before and after Blink for me. So I remember like hearing Blink for the first time and things were just kind of like different afterwards because it was once, cause I heard them after, going over to my buddy Dylan's house and his brothers, locked us out of the house. And that's how I heard Bad Religion for the first time, heard Blink for the first time, heard Damn It over there. Like that was the first exposure I ever had to that kind of music. I didn't even know what I was listening to. Like, I don't think I'd ever had any sort of contextual reference for not that this is, it's not because it's so crazy or like, whatever, right? It's just so different than what I was hearing. I was listening to country. I was listening to Alan Jackson and Dwight Yoakam and like some classic rock stuff, right? Like that's what I was listening to. I was listening to Def Lepp. Like that's what I had in my brain because that's what my dad and my mom listened to. So to hear this and it's something completely different from what they were listening to, I had no context for it. I had no reference for it. And it was just next level. So when they put out Enema, they were on MTV and it was a whole cultural happening. They went on there shortly thereafter, and then my dad bought me the CD at Fred Meyer's, a grocery store that had a CD place inside of it. Had the parental advisory sticker on there. I got in trouble for it by my mom, and I wore these out, man. It was crazy. And without this record, I don't find so many bands. I don't find any of the pop punk stuff I listened to in high school, or at least, I don't know, maybe it had been different because I would have heard it at some point just from other people, but it wouldn't have been the same way. Yeah. I wouldn't have been like, oh, Blink likes or toured with or knows or talked about or whatever so-and-so. Like the only reason I know who Jimmy Eat World is beyond them even living here, they are from here. I knew about them first from the Blink-182 Urethra Chronicles video because Tom talks about his love for Jimmy in that video. So that's the first time I ever heard the word or the name Jimmy Eat World. And anybody they talked about, I was all like really into. It was like, I want to get that CD. I want to listen to that band. And given the fact that we were also in the time of like, I was 8, you know, and June of 99, I was just about to turn 8. I had no money. I don't know anything. I don't know how to download music. No one in my family does. We don't even have a computer that is on the internet. I don't want to think at the time. So like you have just the CDs that you have. So
Yeah.
because I had this CD and it was this and it was Americana, those are the first 2 cool CDs that I had. So I just went crazy and listened to this every day, 100 times a day, and
Yeah.
just didn't stop for years. So this is my most influential for me, just because it did in the moment give me everything. It gave me every band, gave me every genre. Like if I wanted to do heavier stuff, like they were talking about, like the original, SoCal punks, stuff, Propaganda and all that other, fucking shit, Screeching Weasel, whatever. I never really gotten too deep into it, but like they gave you all that. They gave you all the pop punk stuff that later.
Descendants.
Yeah, the Descendants, all that stuff,
Yeah.
exactly. And then it gave you all the stuff that happened later. It gave you the Newfound Glories. It gave you the Sum 41s. It gave you, everything else, that happened. Is all because all those bands started as Blink-182 cover bands. Panic at the
Yeah.
Disco, All Time Low. Many more than forgetting. They were all just Blink cover bands, and that's why they exist. So anyway, Enema of the State, Blink-182. I listen to it. Still pretty. I don't listen to Blink that often anymore. I really don't. But when I do, it's either this or Untitled. And Untitled gets the edge, but this is the most important record for me personally of the 90s. So there you go.
Oh yeah, it definitely could have been in my top 5 too. It's such an essential record for my growing up too. That's a summertime record. I remember my brothers wore that out. By proxy, I did. And them, and going back to the Chili Peppers too, to bounce off that, they got that the TRL MTV the late 90s. They got it too. Like Chili Peppers did too.
Oh yeah.
Coincidentally, I was looking it up. Do you know what day that came out?
June 10th.
June 1st.
June 1st. Okay.
Chili Peppers came out June 8th. So
wow.
Next week, Californication drops. That's a big month. Yeah, that hasn't been recertified since 01. It was 5 times platinum in 01. I can't imagine what it is now. Easily.
Yeah.
Got it.
Like worldwide? Absolutely.
This is US.
Oh yeah, but
yeah, it's gotta be
it could be US. It could be double diamond if you do world. It could be fucking double diamond.
I guarantee. Yeah.
It's crazy how big that record is and still is, and they still do business off of it.
It's such a massive album. It's a great album. It really is. And yeah, it's like we talked about Black Album. It's one of those albums I listen to, and you get nostalgia, and you know what track's coming up, and you get excited. So yeah, definitely a good choice.
It was one solid song or sound. Like I didn't skip anything. Like I knew this goes to this, this goes to this, this goes to this, this goes to this, and I just knew my brain just had the clicks. It just knew.
Yeah, 100%, and it helps too because it's 35 minutes long.
Oh yeah.
Like it's like one of those things you listen to and then you just repeat it. You listen to it and you repeat it. And it's funny too. I eventually want to do an episode about like streaming and how that changed everything and our listening habits and stuff like that, because it's really funny how the shit you ended up with or happened to have or like wanted that shaped your whole life. Like it shaped your fandom of things. Because I have games that I love, and like I love those games because that's the game that I had. Same thing with albums. Journey's Greatest Hits. That was my CD. So like that's why I love Journey. Like
for sure, like
Back in Black.
Trent talked about this because when he gets back in the day too, but like recently since Bowie passed away, he got asked about Bowie a lot and his affinity for Bowie. And Trent talked about how when he was a kid, like college radio was like cool, right? So he knew the name Bowie, and at that point, Scary Monsters had just come out, and Scary Monsters is not one of Bowie's like biggest successful records, right? Early 80s, and it's not really for everybody. It's not everybody's cup of tea, right? But he talks about, he's like, but I couldn't give up on it. Like I spent the money. So I spent the money. I had 3 records. I had Kiss records and I had this. So if I didn't listen to this, I wasn't listening to anything. I was listening to Kiss and then whatever, right? I had very limited choices. So you wore it out until you liked it. You didn't like it at the time, but later you figured something out and you had a way to appreciate it. And then you fucking fell in love with it. It unlocks something in your brain. So kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Like so limited my exposure to music and having like the grasp on it so limited. The handful of CDs that I had, Americana, Enema, later Take Off Pants Jacket, like all the Blink records, because I only had a handful and a half of CDs at that point, really. And that's why I love Velvet Revolver so much, because I had that CD and listened to it constantly, like just over and over and over and over again. And these are CDs and records that, like, largely probably people that were older, maybe they didn't care about whatever, because they had more selection, they had more money, they had more things they could buy, whatever, right? Maybe that's why it's so ingrained in some of the younger kids, because it's all we had. It's all I had, man. So yeah.
Yeah,
And you don't have that anymore
definitely.
with digital. You don't have that anymore. You can have everything.
No,
So
yes.
who
I
has?
think
Who
there's
cares?
I think there's a conversation to be had about that eventually on the
Yeah.
podcast. I got one more here. This is my album of the 90s that I would recommend to somebody. In 1994, this is the band's second album from Pennsylvania. I don't know if that's another record, 8 times platinum. I don't know what date that is of, but it might be more by now. Another record with 5 singles, another massive album. Got any guesses?
Flesh and Blood by Poison.
This is very close.
Okay.
Incorrect. You got the
right.
Pennsylvania connection.
Yeah.
But
who is it? I don't know. I forgot. Maybe I'm not thinking Pennsylvania.
During Copper My Life.
Wow, that is crazy, my friend. Wow.
Yeah, man. When I think of the 90s, I think of this album cover.
Gotcha.
I love this album cover. I think of these songs, man. I get so nostalgic. Like I get tears almost. Like I think of these songs growing up, because I've listened to this record so many times. And I re-listened to it for the last 2 or 3 days, and it's still so good. Yeah, I got this, and then I got the CD here. The CD's cool because it's got the red edge. Yeah, like it's like I think my brother Josh had this cassette, or my aunt had the cassette or something, and became like she bought it for him or something. I can't remember the story, but I just remember looking at the set like, what is this cover? It's really cool painting. It's oil painting. It's kind of weird, like mysterious. Like, what are these people doing on here? And you just start listening to the songs, and obviously the big single is Lightning Crashes. I think Lightning Crashes is a really powerful, just a great song. Great video too. Selling the Drama, I Alone, All Over You. Those are the big massive singles. Yeah, man. Pillar Davidson, that's a really great song. Shit Town's a good song. Iris, really good song. I think you would really love this record if you listen to it all the way through. The drums on this, the production, it's really powerful. To me, I hear a lot of like contemporary rock in this album. Like I think they were ahead of their time there. It's really solid production, and Ed's lyrics. I love his lyrics. He's a really good writer, man. This is a great record, and I don't really like Mental Jewelry, the first record, or the record after this, Secret Samadhi. Like, to me, they're kind of hit or miss, but like this is a solid record. This is the 25th anniversary, so this is still floating around if you want to pick it up. Funny part about it is I went to this is what I went to Zia yesterday for, because I'm like, oh, they got a copy of Throwing Copper. I want to own that on vinyl, and I need it for this episode. I'd buy it anyway. $25. I went there, said they had it in stock. I looked through the L's, couldn't find it. I'm like, maybe they put it in the T's because they screwed up and thought the band was Throwing Copper. Went through the T's, couldn't find it. I went through metal. I'm like, maybe somebody screwed up, couldn't find it. Went through rap, couldn't find it. So I'm like, where is? So eventually, I just had to ask the guy. I'm like, dude, you guys, it's showing you guys got a copy of Throwing Copper in stock. I can't find it. Guys look through. He's like, oh yeah, I just don't know where it is, man. I'm just like, dear Lord, whatever. So eventually I was just like, all right, it's on Amazon. I tried to throw Zia a few bucks. I just ordered it on Amazon. But great album. And this is when I think of the 90s. This is it. This is the album. 100%. Still holds up.
Definitely there. That's a massive record. I didn't know you had such an affinity for it. I didn't know that was so personal for you. Um, I get it though. Like I get it. That's definitely a massive 90s record.
I honestly, I had to like rediscover it for this topic.
Okay.
Because it's a record I don't listen to a lot. I know the song so much. Like, dear Lord, like Josh wore those songs out.
Yeah.
Like all those records. Like Josh is a huge live fan. But I rediscovered it here and I'm like thinking about this album. Like that Justice for All is like the first album cover I really remember. And that album cover is ingrained in my DNA, and that song, like those songs, like Lightning Crash, like that song is ingrained in my life. Like, so when I think about the 90s, like I think about that record. I think about that record growing up. So like, and to me, I probably wouldn't put it in there if it didn't hold up. But I think the whole record is really great top to bottom.
Yeah.
And the production on it. It's like some of the playing on it, like the drumming on it is really heavy, dude. Like it's really impressive.
Who's is there a producer on there?
Producer on it was Jerry Harrison from Talking Heads.
Oh shit! Okay, nice.
He's a guitar player in Talking Heads.
Did not know his name. Okay, fair.
So I kind of hear that sound like it's big, bombastic, but the drums are mic'd up so well. Like give it a try this week. Like if you want something to listen to the big singles again. Listen to Iris, which wasn't a single, but the drums on Iris are stellar. Yeah, it's a great album. I love that album.
There's probably a good group of people, swath of people that downloaded Iris in 1998 off of Napster.
Oh, 100%. It was the wrong song.
The wrong song.
They're like, what the hell is this?
Exactly. Yeah.
This is not the Goo Goo Dolls. This is not the song I heard in the movie.
It's not City of Angels soundtrack. What are you talking about? Okay.
Yeah.
That's
amazing. That was the one. This is a good topic because it reignited my love for that album.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's it, man. That's the really cool thing about this is this has bonus tracks on there. This has Hold Me Up on here, which was only ever released in the movie Zack and Miri.
I did just read that, by the way. I did just read that.
Yeah. And I'm like, you're right. Because I know that scene. I remember that song in that scene. I'm like, yeah, that is a live song. And then they put it on this 20th anniversary first time. So the first time you could own that song. Because it wasn't on the soundtrack for that album. It was in the movie, but wasn't on the soundtrack. So
yeah. I don't know. I the live thing, like, I don't know anybody that was like growing up that was a massive live fan. Like I heard those songs on the radio, but I don't think I ever knew who they were by for the majority of my young life. And I didn't meet a live fan until later on in life when we worked at Discover. And my friend Deanna, a massive live fan. Like she is the live fan. She had the sticker on the back of her.
Josh is a huge live fan too.
Okay, yeah, but he didn't have the sticker on the back of the Jeep. He didn't have the sticker on the back of the Jeep though. So
true, very true.
Yeah, she had a U2 and a live sticker on the back of the Jeep. She was interesting lady. Shout out Deanna. But yeah, I mean the singles are all massive and huge, and I respect it entirely because it's a pretty good pick. So I will give live another listen this week based solely upon your recommendation.
Yeah, I would just listen to that record and start with like some of the singles and just listen to the drums because I know you have appreciation for that. I think you'd really dig it and just go through it. It's a pretty good list. It's only 59 minutes. It's long. I mean, it's a long record, but it's solid. It's solid. It's solid.
Yeah, you just said only 59 minutes, by the way.
Yeah. I did. And usually I'm the one like cut the fat, but I love that. I truly like that record top to bottom. Like I've listened to it 3 times in the last like 2 days.
Nice.
And just front to back. Like I truly love the album front to back. Went number 1 too on the Billboard 200. Like it's almost a diamond record at this point. It's 8 million. So yeah, that's it, guys. That is our time capsule for the 90s. Let us know your thoughts down below. If you made it this far, hit the sub button. You just watched an hour plus long episode. It's just going to be like hour 20. So pretty good, getting under 2 hours. So like the video, subscribe. You hung out this long with us. So we appreciate you guys. We always choose the topic for next week's episode at the end of every episode too. So this week's my choice. I think we're going to go back in time. I want to get these done before the end of the year. So I want to go back to 1983.
Okay.
So bring your top 5 favorite albums from 1983 with one honorable mention.
Okay. Fivers.
Top 5. Yep. Just
Fiver.
top 5. I want to try to keep it to this man. And I already started the list and it's very hard for me. So I have to cut some massive shit out of the list.
There's some massive shit in 83. Yeah, yeah.
There's some massive stuff. Some good stuff.
Interesting.
So yeah, it should be fun. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.